Good morning. Coalition of Concerned Republicans here in Central Florida. Wow, July the 14th, 2026. We're heading down the pipeline towards our Republican primary election. Election day is August the 18th. The mail-in ballots have already gone out. The supervisor of elections is already receiving um, executed ballots in the office. People are voting. And today is going to be a really interesting day. We have a gentleman by the name of Gregg Jones with us today. He's from an organization called Conservative USA, and he's going to introduce us to his organization. I really wasn't sure how exciting this was going to be until we started doing our little pre-launch, and then, Greg got me all fired up about stuff. So, I know this is going to be a big whirlwind interview with Greg, depending on how closely Chuck reins us in. So, we're with, of course, Chuck the Great. Chuck Benoit is with us again today. So I'd like for Chuck to come on the screen, and then Chuck can bring Greg on for us. How about that, Chuck?
There we go. Okay, well, Gregg Jones is the head of Conservatives with an S at the end of it, USA.org. Welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me.
Super, super. Well, we're going to just start off with some easy questions. Like,
Okay.
what is conservativesusa.org?
All right. So what we are, conservativesusa.org, is a grassroots organization that started here locally in Florida. It's a Christian JDO, and what we do is we look for candidates that best fit our views and also the views of America. They have to be a conservative, they have to be a Republican, they have to be in the Christian faith, and at the same time, we want to make sure that they are the right candidates to go either to DC or up to Tallahassee. And so we do vetting from the beginning, and we work our way down to the candidate. And once we realize that this is a candidate that we want to back, then we start doing the process with the candidate itself.
Super. Now, you said make sure that the candidate is Christian. If they were Jewish, that's still in your bailiwick, or what's your deal?
Yeah, we're Christian Judeo, so we look at the radicalized side of it, right? So we're not. You could have radical Christians too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what we do this whole vetting process now. We are totally against the what they. I don't think it's an ideology of Islam. I'm not saying we're against any Muslim people, but Islam definitely has been doing a lot of hurting in our Congress and in our local elections. And we are America First people. We want America to survive. We see the forefathers, what they were doing in public schools, which people say, oh, the separation of church and state. Well, guess what? When they came over here, they were teaching the Bible inside of those public schools, and it didn't come about until 1960. So yeah, we'll look at those candidates, but our basis is really on a Christian Judeo and to get those good candidates elected.
Super.
Jesus was Jewish, right, Greg?
Okay, so
It is true. Jesus was Jewish. I
yeah,
mean, come on.
yeah, but
Just say
he
yes. Yes, he was. And that's it. We move
was,
on.
and then what happens is that we all know what happened. He crucified. He was
Yeah,
crucified.
we exactly. Thank you very much. I just want to make the point. You can't
Before we get
separate
too far,
Christianity from Judaism. Yeah,
let's,
you
No,
just,
no, no,
in
no.
my
I
view,
mean,
you can't separate it.
I'm a huge supporter of Israel. Don't get me wrong.
Okay. I'm
Matter of
just
fact,
saying,
let me show you what's on my desk.
without Judaism, there would be no Christianity.
Well, here you go. This is where we stand with that too. So
I'm
I
with
wouldn't
you.
have this in my house if I didn't believe that. But what I'm trying to stay away from is
This is why we have Chuck,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because he
I'm trying
brings us
to
off
kind
of
of
these
rein us in here.
conversations and on to the
Let's
next one.
kind of, Greg and I go back to Bible studies together, and clearly we have a difference of opinion on how things should be articulated. But we're going to try to keep this a little bit closer to home regarding the what's happening here this November with primary elections, general elections, and so let's just, as long as we acknowledge the fact that it's a Judeo-Christian mindset, and there are Jews that are Judeo-Christian in their mindset as well as
Absolutely.
Christians. Okay, so that's the point I was trying to make. So how big is your group?
well, right now we spread out in different states. Mostly we're locally here. That's our big focus is right here um, in Florida, in Winter Garden. We care about mayoral races. We care about school boards and commissioners, but we have people that are all throughout the United States, and they do make phone calls for us. So I guess you would say we're in different states at different times, but the main focus is right here. And we have a bunch of loyal women that make phone calls, and some youth from UFC that actually go door knocking. So we have a good reach within this local area, and that's what we're concerned on.
Yes, so it is a local group.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do you have meetings? Where do you meet?
Yeah, we meet at different places now. We have meetings at my house, or we'll have it at, we can actually go and have meetings in our local HOA, because by law, they're required to allow us to meet in the HOA buildings. If you look at the Florida statutes. And so we invite people throughout our community and throughout the area. And we also are part of the GOP organization. We are not associated per se, but we are members of the GOP. So we also reach to the GOP and talk with them too.
And just to be clear, that's the Orange County Republican Executive Committee?
Yes, it is. That's the one that's run by Erin Huntley here locally, and she's
Got it.
running for House District 45, which is
Yep, I
another
know
one of
Erin.
our candidates that we're behind. So
Cool.
Yeah, so that was another question I guess I had. I think it's a little farther down on my list, but you know, where are you regarding the RPOF? You know, are you on good standings with them, or do you have issues with the RPOF? Because the RPOF seems to be, they kind of tried to shut us down up here in Lake County.
well, we have learned the mastery of trying to not incite fights within the GOP and within our group. We all have the same likes, but I don't agree 100% with what the GOP does, because of the reason why I think sometimes we don't pick the best candidates, and we're afraid to go out and say, hey, this is the best candidate running. And everybody says, oh, we can't put the thumb on the scale. Well, somebody better tell Trump that, because President Trump has jumped into a few races without the Republican Party saying yay or nay. So I think what happens is we dilute the good candidates, and the ones that should not be elected gets elected, the good old boy syndrome here in our backyards. And that is not the person that should represent us. And that's how we feel with the GOP. We keep our distance, but yet we're still with the Republican Party.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Chuck,
Sure.
it's amazing. I was the chairman of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee between 2012 and 2016. And my big flaw in my thinking, according to the Republican Party of Florida, is that primaries are for local districts to choose their standard bearer. And the Republican Party of Florida has never agreed with that. The Republican Party of Florida has always wanted to give us, and I'm just going to give one more example, Chuck, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
to just put the icing on the cake. I mean, I was at a Republican Party of Florida quarterly meeting. Let's see, it was in 2016 for sure, but I can't remember if it was January or March, the first quarterly or the second. And Blazing Golia had just been elected chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. Sharon Day was our national committee woman, who was also the vice or co-chair with Reince Priebus, and Peter Feynman was our Republican National Committee man. And they were up in Wisconsin meeting in Reince Priebus's hometown, and they flew in from Wisconsin and limoed right directly over to the meeting and walked directly to the podium and told the Republican Party of Florida that Jeb Bush was going to be the nominee from Florida. Right? I mean, directly from the limo to the podium. And we were about to have a quarterly meeting early in the, agenda, and the team that represents Florida at the RNC came back and told us who our nominee would be. And it's happening today on even more. Like, for example, that was kind of you would think that uninformed people certainly wouldn't know that, and I would agree with that. But today, it's the Republican Party of Florida telling us exactly who our state reps are going to be, who our state senators are going to be, who our Congress people are going to be, all of it. And they just say these are the electable people. And the reason they're electable is because they put all the RPOF and Florida House, Florida Senate, RNC, campaign committee, all the funding behind them, and that makes them electable. Okay, can you agree with that, or what do you think about that, Gregg?
Well, here's the problem, and I agree with exactly what you say. Okay, let's look at endorsements. We're not supposed to put the thumb on the scale, but here's sitting representatives and state representatives in Congress putting the thumb on the scale. So they'll go out and endorse a candidate and say, well, this person, I'm endorsing them. Like, why are they selected? Why are they even involved?
Exactly.
If they're endorsing candidates, why are they picking who they want to pick at that
Exactly.
so they are weighing the scales. And so I don't really agree with that system. If you're in elected office, you should keep your mouth shut locally until the primary is over. And then if you want to endorse that whatever candidate gets picked, then you do. And if you don't,
Right.
you don't. So
Well, let me tell you something, Greg. In Lake County, Florida, it's called gang tackling.
yeah,
Okay. There are candidates who've been elected to public office that didn't talk to a single voter in the primary election cycle, but got endorsed by 40 elected officials in Lake County, and the person gets across the finish line. Okay. I call that gang tackling. And
yes.
that's what's going on here in Lake County.
Well, it's the same thing as the Democrats did, right? Look at what they did with Biden and Harris. It's the same thing, right? They incorporated and put their person in what they wanted. And even though the people didn't vote for her and didn't want to vote, even in the primary election, I think she got maybe a half a percent of whatever. And then they go ahead and said Biden's unfit, and then they put him in. Sounds like Lake County to me. Sounds like a lot of the good old boy syndromes where you have people,
Totally.
fathers in been elected officials, and then you have a son being raised up to be an elected official. Yeah, he might be
Without
a
a doubt.
hawk catcher, and run for that office. But when it comes to Congress, you got to be sharp and you got to be on the ball, on the tack. And I don't believe that we have anybody in this election except for Tim Wilkinson that is actually sharp. And
Wilkins, not Wilkinson.
Wilkins, I'm sorry, yeah, Tim Wilkins. And I'm just saying,
Well, let me say something to you too, Greg. Because you
yeah.
can be you can be the smartest guy in the room, but if your motivation isn't right, you're going to take us in the wrong direction. So, intellect, IQ, pedigree, all of that stuff really has, to be honest with you, I would rather have, and again, I hate to, my analogy is going to be a plumber, right? But of course, we have a plumber in the race, right? But the point is that it really isn't brain surgery, Greg. To go and do the right thing is not brain surgery. And, in my personal point of view, the government at all levels tramples all over median household income families. Those are the people that I'm the most concerned about. So, supporting and, creating an environment in which upward mobility for median household income families is doable is not hard. But we've made it really complicated in this country from the city council all the way to Congress. And I don't like that. And again, the point I'm making here is that I'm not overly concerned with your intellect. I am more concerned about your heart than your mind. Okay.
Right. And that's how we look at the candidates. Like, for instance, when we went down our list of candidates, first thing we looked at is what they consider Dr. Raznak, how do you pronounce his name? But his dad's from Pakistan. He doesn't say that. He's a Muslim. And we've been through this many, many times. And he doesn't say he's a Muslim. I tell you right now, I am a Christian. I am proud of being a Christian. But he never says anything to anybody about being a Muslim. I have cornered him, questioned him on that. And they won't, because they know that American people are smart when it comes to that. Then we looked at Joe Strada. Well, Joe Strada is running the Biden campaign. He's staying in his cellar. He's not making any engagements to talk and to be on the TV screen when it comes time to tell him what he is and what he stands for, because he doesn't know what he stands for other than his business interests in 12 different states. And then he doesn't even live in our county. So that was a no-go.
In our district. In our
Yeah,
district.
in our district.
He
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
live
Yeah.
in our district.
Yeah, I get ahead of myself here. In our district. So he lives outside of that.
Mhm.
And then we have Carey Baker, which we all know. He's a local, been a politician, good old boy syndrome. True Now gets behind him and all these other people. And you know what? That's not the
No,
right.
Trudeau endorsed Strada.
Oh, did he? Well,
The whole legislative delegation from Lake County, Florida, endorsed Strada.
And what has he done? I mean, what has Strada done? I'm a businessman.
We don't know him. I mean, you know that he built a business. That's his whole calling card, right?
Right. And he stays in the basement. So I consider him no Joes in Congress, no Joes in politics. And that means Joe Biden and Joe Strada. That's why
That's an interesting, Alex.
yeah, that's why I put him. No Joes. We don't want a Joe. We have Joes. We had a Joe. And he doesn't articulate who he is. He doesn't have any substance about, like, for instance, here, can I take a second here and talk about one of the subjects that Tim Wilkins is talking about.
Wilkins, yes.
Wilkins, Wilkins. He is talking
Thinking on it.
about protecting Social Security. Well, how's he going to do that? Well, he's going to want to ratify this through the 50 states, which would be a simple system because people would back that. And it takes Congress out of the whole loop, right? So now Congress can't touch the money. It's a ratified amendment that Social Security goes directly to the person who pays into it, not the government, and it's a beneficiary project. So what happens if my father died at 59, my mom, if this was a ratified amendment, money went directly to her account, and then she would be able to live off of that. But they didn't. So 45 years of paying in taxes, or Social Security, and his employer went where? Poof, it's gone. And now we're getting into illegals. Now that's an issue, and I think Tim's going to hit that straight away when he gets up there in Congress.
Are we talking about legislation here? Or are you talking about some kind of a constitutional amendment?
Constitutional amendment, because we tried legislations. We can't get the Save America Act passed. Why are they not going to dip into the money and take Social
Well, if
Security?
you think getting the Save America Act passed is hard, wait till you try to do a constitutional amendment. That's
Well,
gonna be a tough one.
it's the people. Remember, we got to go
Yeah,
to
but
the
you got to get it. How are you going to get it? How are you going to get it on the? How are you going to
put it on the ballot.
Well, again, you have to get the legislature to put it on the ballot,
We can go around that.
or your convention of states situation. So I would I'm not opposed to it. I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket on it. I'm just trying to understand, what is the path to getting that done? Because I think it's depending on the details, of course, I think it's a good thing to do. Obviously, we can't have the government raiding Social Security, right?
Yeah, that's true, and they do, and it's not that way. It wasn't designed that way. What part of the government's put in that money? Where has the government? Where has the U.S. government put in any funding towards Social Security? Please explain that.
We're $40 trillion in debt. Okay. I
Right.
mean, that's really all you need to know.
Yeah.
These people are completely unhinged as it relates to the financial integrity of this country.
Right. And let me go back to the candidates, and I want to explain why Tim was our pick. One thing we did is we found out he's not a career politician. He gets in front of people. But he gets in front of people and he talks to constituents, right? He's there. He's over the plate. He's actually a reachable individual. He lives in Windermere, so he's in our backyard, right? He lives in that area.
Backyard. He's in your backyard.
Well, yeah, but that's why we like him. But anyways, he also started a program for young girls, weightlifting, so that they can be empowered, that they're not somebody that's subpar. They get in there and they feel confident with themselves. So that's a great product he has too. So he's a very articulated individual, looks like a congressman, speaks like a congressman. And for people that don't
walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
But he is, but he's the right guy at the right time. He's the right guy. But then we got the quackers. There's four other
guys. He is
quackers. But he's the right guy. He's the right guy. We vetted him deeply and made sure there was nothing in his past.
Tell me about his media career.
Well, his media career, he was a professional. He was a professional comedian for 30 years.
Comedian? Is that the extent of his media career?
Yeah, and then his
Isn't
wife.
It broader than that?
He's made movies. He's produced movies. His wife is in the industry with the movies, Christian movies. He also opened up for President Trump many times during his campaign. President Trump invited him up to speak with him as far as his professional side of being a comedian. But he is a media mogul.
Did he have a radio show at some point?
Yeah, he did. So he had radio shows. He's been around. He's a really he really understands the people. And that's the thing about it. He understands what has to be done. And he's a strong individual for that. He actually talks to people. I had a lady yesterday that called him and she talked to him. She told me she was 85 years old. She said, he's got my vote because you know what? I called him and he picked up the phone.
I get it.
And he wants to put constituents areas here around here, like in our backyard, where if you have an issue, you can go directly to that building and say, hey, I have issues. And we're going to get that message up to him. And then he can actually respond to that.
Well, number one, you have to win. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we do. And also he's not afraid to go up to DC and vote. I like Daniel Webster as a friend, but poor Dan didn't do anything for a long time. And now we're in this Florida problem in our backyard where Lake County and different people think that this is a good old
Yeah.
boy system. And I'm not,
I'm
I'm
a
not
Dan
happy.
Webster fan myself. I've been in this district with Dan Webster for quite a while, and we've never really seen eye to eye, Dan
Yeah.
Webster and I,
Well, again, it's a good old boy syndrome, right? Good old boy, same old, same old.
without a doubt.
Don't
Chuck, what
disrupt.
do you think?
Well, I think my next question was, who are you supporting for Florida 11? I guess we got that answer. Tim
Yeah.
Wilkins, and you've given us a couple of reasons why Tim Wilkins.
Let me,
And
before we get off Tim, Chuck, if you don't mind,
all right.
again, at the end of the day, there's not a candidate in this race who believes that the 2020 election was stolen other than Tim Wilkins. And as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have free and fair elections in this country, you don't have a country. So I would say for me personally, and let me say, I've interviewed all three of these guys, Tim Wilkins, Carey Baker, and Joe Strada. And Tim Wilkins was the only one who would say the 2020 election was stolen. And I'm going to tell you something. For me personally, litmus test. I was tempted to support Strada based on his business background and everything. But when you get right down to it, and because Joe Strada would not say that the 2020 election was stolen, and Carey Baker wouldn't say it either. So for me personally, if you don't believe, if you think that we have the gold standard of elections in Florida, then I'm telling you, I disagree with you. Let me just put it mildly. I disagree with you. And if you're a candidate who won't say the 2020 election was stolen, I'm not going to vote for you, period. End of story.
Exactly. And we all know what happened there because there's data. And what happened is the judges just didn't take it up. And it's going to come out because now we're in Georgia. We're looking at Georgia. Puerto Rico, which is one of the great AGs out there, sent two of the Dominion machines back to the FBI. They're running tests right now, going through it and seeing where the corruption was. And so it's going to come out. It's going to come
right
out
now, Greg. Chuck, Greg, let me just again.
Yeah.
I know that I talk a lot.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, but why don't we just on election day? Why don't we just get a bunch of hackers and let's see if we can hack that freaking machine? Right? While the votes are being cast, right? Let's just do it.
I
Mike, I'm
could
gonna
tell
keep
you.
you on the all by yourself saying that because the rest of us don't want to get investigated by the FBI or whatever.
You know what? I'm just look. It's just a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical.
I know,
If they're not hackable, well, then let's just have let's get on a set like this, and let's get some hackers out there and see if we can hack the damn thing. Because you know what? You can.
Well, let me
It's
tell you.
obvious you can.
I'm
Mike,
sure
let me
you
tell you a
can,
story.
Mike, but I think we should possibly, just leave that for the hackers.
Chuck, I'm gonna have to toughen you up, Chuck.
Mike, let me tell you a story.
You cannot win if you don't fight. I know Greg agrees with me.
Yeah, but here's the
Right?
thing. You can't even, here's the thing. So 2 election cycles ago, I was going down checking signatures at Orange County Supervisor of Elections. And I noticed that there was five signatures in blue ink with the same date, with a different address.
Was
And
that Singh? Was Singh the supervisor
no,
of elections?
this
back
was
then?
running for, this was, I want to say Amnesty or Leonard, whatever it is. Yeah, I was thinking it was Leonard. And so I challenged it up there. I said, look, what's happening in Pine Hills is they're paying guys $10 for a vote. And I told them this. I give them a pack of cigarettes. I give them a 40-ounce beer. And so there was the same signature, the same date, everything. And you know what they put down? This is what they did. So when I went in there and challenged it, the very next day in their notes, they put down Gregg Jones spoke. That's it.
Right.
Not Gregg Jones challenged the election. Gregg Jones found
right.
the
Spoke.
fraud in Pine Hills. Oh,
I get
no.
it.
Gregg Jones spoke. That
There
was
we
the
go.
intent.
Okay, so our time
Not
is
happening.
quickly slipping away. I know you guys are very excited about getting your message out there. I think in regard to just the Florida 11, it is one race that you guys over here in Winter Garden and we here in Lake County kind of have the same interest in. I just want to
Correct me if I'm wrong. 50% of the vote in this race will come from Lake County, right, Greg?
I believe that's the number, but, give or take.
Southwest Orange County, Sumter County,
Yeah.
and part of the majority of Lake County, and I think 50% of the vote will come from Lake County, Chuck. So this congressional district really critical in Lake.
I think what's going to happen, we're going to have a split in Lake County. I think it's going to be between.
Well, that's already
Baker- the Baker
obvious.
and Strada.
That's quite obvious.
Yeah. And
Okay,
so
I think, again, as I was trying to bring that to a close, I think majority of what we've said was a positive reflection on Tim Wilkins. There were a few comments to the negatives regarding his, the other candidates. But when people go to their mailbox, I think one of the main things they need to pay very, very close attention to is where are the negatives coming from. So, you need to be deciding who you want for Florida 11 based on what the individual says about themselves. So, moving on with that, we also, we all have the same interest in our governor. Where do you stand on the governor's race?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was a big Byron supporter at first because I knew him personally. But then I found that Jay Collins was running. We like Jay Collins, and I know he's a dark horse, but the thing you get with Jay is you get what you get. And the only thing about Jay Collins is he's a veteran, and I'm a veteran. I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. Tim Wilkins spent time in the Marine Corps, 7 years plus. And so I kind of I like Jay. Jay's our horse. So that's where we're staying, and we're going to go
So
with him.
Jay's your boy or Jay's Conservatives USA boy?
He's Conservatives USA.
Okay, all right.
So how does that happen? What is the process for Conservatives USA to endorse?
We
What
have
is the
we have a
process?
body of electors in here. So we have 12 people that are on the board. And what we'll do is they do research, and then what we'll do is sit down, and they have to have 70% of the yays to be endorsed by us. So in other words, if we sit down, there's 12, we get 9 yays and 3 nays, then we'll go with that candidate. And it gives us a pretty much it's a democracy type system that we use, but because we want people to express why they researched them, why they like them, why they don't like them. And then I'm, as the CEO and the founder, what I'll do is I'll make that determination, but I will stay with the majority of who votes for who, and they like Jay Collins.
Okay. So basically it's a military background thing that you really like.
Well, yeah, and I like the idea that they're accessible. I've always, I've been around a lot of heavy hitters in the Republican Party in my younger years, and anybody gets a bunch of money passed down to them from other organizations, I kind of question. Is they good for Florida? Now, Jay Collins brings lieutenant governorship with him, which gives him some experience in that seat. But I think he could follow with.
He's been campaigning most of the time he was lieutenant governor.
Well, but
That's
you
true.
got to campaign to win. You got to campaign to win. But
Yeah, but you can't give him credit for being seasoned as a lieutenant governor when he spends most of his time campaigning. So
well,
basically he has a public paycheck while
yeah,
he's out running his political campaign.
and does
And
Byron
look, I'm
Johnson.
not opposed to Jay Collins. I've met Jay Collins on several occasions. I like Jay Collins. He's not my choice for governor,
Who's
and
your
that's
choice?
fine. We don't, but the problem is that when guys like you and me disagree on who we're voting for governor, it just gives the race to Byron, right?
Who are you running
Because
for?
we got several different candidates challenging Donald's, and when you divide the vote among 4 or 5 alternatives, then you basically cede the election to the front runner.
Our problem was that was Fishback. We don't know if he's been here a legitimate time. We don't know that. We're still trying to find out if he's been in a position that he can do it. Reiner comes from. I like the guy. I personally know him, but he's again another career politician.
Who's that? Who are you talking about?
Renner.
Oh, Paul Renner.
Yeah, Paul Renner. And he's been around, but he doesn't have the traction. So, you try to get behind a horse that can win. And
Well,
I mean, I like Byron. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a person, but I just think that we need somebody that.
Byron's got some sketchy stuff out there.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, it does.
We
But
went through.
let's.
Yeah.
We're down to our last few minutes, and I did want to throw this out. A little while back, the Lake Federated Women had a meet and greet, and there were several good candidates that showed up. But the one candidate that got the most applause, I mean, everybody got polite applause, but this guy the room broke out for, and that was Matt the welder. So where are
Matt
you?
Taylor.
Where are you
Matt
on
Taylor.
the commissioner?
That's how he'll be on the ballot.
Matt Taylor will be on the ballot, right?
I love him. I love the guy. He's a grassroots individual. We
I
love
love
him.
him too.
We think he's the guy for the job because we want outsiders to look at it and say it's not status quo. You know, we used to have a thing in the Marine Corps, and I tell you what I used to do as a gunny. I go into guys and say, look, we've been doing this for 20 years. Doesn't mean it's right. We're going to change it if it needs to be changed. And I think Matt the welder is a guy that's going to do that. I think he is
Hopefully.
a grassroots individual saying it's not status quo. We're not going to back the good old boy syndrome. We're going to go in there and vote. And I believe that that's where we're landing with is Matt the
So are you going
welder.
to support Blaze for your CFO, or are you going to go with Frank Coolidge? I think his name is
We're going to
Coolidge.
go with Blaze. I've talked to Blaze.
I know Blaze well.
Yeah.
I actually was the sole member of the Republican Party of Florida who made Blaze the chairman of the party.
Yeah.
I shot down all of his competition when I was on the party, and he
Yeah.
actually admitted it the other day.
Well, you know,
That if it wasn't for me, he would not have been the
good
chairman
for
of the
you.
Republican Party
That's
of
why we
Florida.
have to do what we do.
Okay, so
Okay,
we
there you
are
go.
out of time. And Greg, what we normally do is I give both you guys a minute to kind of clean things up. I'm going to let Mike go first because he knew he was going to be doing this, and then you'll come on and just finish up a little, a minute wrap up on what you'd like to leave us with. Mike?
Well, I just want to encourage Greg to make sure that when he does his wrap up, that he tells the audience how to contact Conservatives USA if he's interested in hearing from people. Make sure that you get your contact information out there. I want to remind the audience, if you haven't subscribed to our broadcast, then you should do that. And, anyway, so yeah, it's a critical elections. I think CD11 is really an interesting race. You've got three candidates in that race who technically should be able to win. And we've talked about the divide between the establishment here in Lake County, between Strada and Carey Baker, who all bring their career politician endorsements and all that to the table. And then you've got a really great guy, Tim Wilkins, who does believe the 2020 election was stolen. And that to me is a deciding factor, kind of running up the middle. And hopefully he can peel away enough votes from both sides to win. I think that'd be great. And I'll just turn this back over to Greg now, Chuck.
Greg?
Yeah, and so Conservatives USA is a grassroots organization. That's with an S. You can check us out at conservativeusa.org, and you can look at our website, and it sends all of our mission statements and what we stand for. We also look for great candidates, and we want candidates that actually aren't status quo, that the good old boy syndrome, i.e. Carey Baker, Joe Strada, Joe Biden campaign people. And then you got Razak, which is a Muslim. He's out of he's out of our thought process. But we are a grassroots organization that makes phone calls, door knocks, passes out literature. We support great candidates. And I would hope that you would check us out at Conservatives USA, that's with an S, conservativeusa.org, and get more information. You can contact us through that website, and I will answer every one of your emails or phone calls. We thank you, and we really appreciate you guys having us on. That's conservativeusa.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregg Jones, and thank you, Mike Levine, and thank you all for tuning into our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at Restore Our Rep 76. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic ROAR. Please like and share the program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you, God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.
Amen.